The Demon Slayer anime came out back in 2019 and quickly became one of the most popular anime of this generation. With the release of the first season, Demon Slayer became the highest selling manga of 2020. After only being released in Japan and a few other countries, the 2020 Demon Slayer movie, Mugen Train, actually dethroned Spirited Away for highest grossing anime film of all time, which held the title for 19 years. Needless to say, it's incredibly popular, and with the recent release of the movie to the rest of the world, its popularity is just continuing to rise. When the manga first came out in 2016, it was relatively unheard of. It wasn't until the anime adaptation, and particularly episode 19, that Demon Slayer really began to get onto people's radars. This kind of explosive popularity is very rare, and I've been racking my brain in the internet trying to figure out how this happened. I've come to a few conclusions and will be explaining my findings to anyone who may be interested. So without further ado, let's see how the heck Demon Slayer became so frickin' popular. I'm gonna keep this free of any manga spoilers, but I will be using clips from both the first season of the anime and from Mugen Train, so watch at your own risk. Part of why I was confused about Demon Slayer's rise to popularity is because objectively it's not the best anime out there. I've watched plenty of anime with better writing, more unique stories, and more developed characters that haven't even a fraction of the love that Demon Slayer gets. Now of course, this can become a matter of opinion, but after analyzing the entire anime and manga, it's basically a fact. I'm majoring in art and English, so I analyze fiction all the time, and while interest is subjective, there are certain things that objectively make a story better or worse. So with this in mind, if Demon Slayer is not the best, most well-written story with the most developed characters, then why the heck is it so freaking popular? Why did I read the manga and get more and more invested into the story with every single arc? And why did I cry for like 4 hours after I finished it? Well, I'll start with the most obvious answer, and it's probably the one that you've heard people talk about before. A huge part of the anime's rise to popularity is because of the art and animation style. It's not uncommon for a series to become more popular after the anime adaptation, so this isn't really a surprise. Visual storytelling plays a huge part in any series, but especially this type of dark fantasy battle anime. The manga itself has a very beautiful art style. In fact, it's one of my favorite manga styles, but the animation really enhances the show. Every single movement has a purpose, and each character moves in a unique way with a combat style exclusive to them. This makes every fight scene very dynamic and interesting to watch before even enhancing it with fantasy components. The use of organic elements like butterflies or dragons alongside the clean slices of their swords adds a unique layer of intrigue within the show that draws us in and keeps our attention. In addition to that, the Studio Ufotable uses a combination of 2D animation and 3D CGI, which adds to the already engaging style. This isn't a new technique, but it's one of the most successful uses of this combination that I've ever seen in anime. Because of this, they're able to show moments of extreme realism and then cut to highly fantastical and colorful scenes while still making it look like the same world. The most beautiful moment of the entire anime, in my opinion, is when Tanjiro cuts the head off the mother spider. There are a few scenes in animation that make me cry every single time I watch just because of how beautiful it is, and this is definitely one of them. Another important thing that I like about the anime is the pacing. It's spaced out in a way that really seems to bulk out the story, which makes it feel like time has actually passed between each arc. For this reason, the anime was more successful in the pacing than the manga, in my opinion. Aside from the visual appeal of the anime, the sound adds a lot of interest as well. Sound design is meant to go unnoticed for the most part, but it creates emotion within us that we don't even realize. Every sound works with the visuals, whether that's the slice of the sword through the air or the beat of the butterfly's wings. Sound is very nuanced, so even small changes to the music can affect how we perceive the scene. Listen to the music when a new character is introduced and how it changes the next time they appear. Do the footsteps sound the same when they're running indoors versus on the forest floor? What do you feel when the music is loud and chaotic versus what you feel when there's no music at all? It all has a purpose, whether the watcher realizes or not. The next thing I would like to talk about is the story itself. So, the actual plot of Demon Slayer is not necessarily a new concept. At its core, it's a fantasy action anime where people fight monsters with swords. Plenty of anime are based off of this concept or something similar. Dororo, Inuyasha, Noragami, Seraph of the End, Chainsaw Man, and Attack on Titan are just a few I can think of off the top of my head. Demon Slayer doesn't have any huge plot twists or complex arcs, and the pattern of the plot doesn't doesn't really change. Essentially, it's fight, rest period, training arc, fight, rest period, training arc, fight throughout the entire story. Now, I'm not saying this plot is bad or uninteresting because obviously people wouldn't watch it if that were the case. However, I do believe that the plot is not the most important thing about the story. The plot, in my opinion, comes secondary to the characters, and that's because Demon Slayer is a character-driven story. I'm gonna explain my way of thinking, but this is all very nuanced, so my definitions may not line up with the way other people define it, and in that case, people's opinions on this can easily differ. A character-driven story is defined as a story that moves forward because of how the characters are. The nature of the characters is what shapes the outcome of the story. A plot-driven story moves forward because something outside of the characters happen. Something happens to the characters, they react to it, and this is what creates the story. The characters are tools of the plot. Attack on Titan, for example, is a plot-driven story. Although the characters are well developed and crucial to the story, they don't individually change the outcome. Attack on Titan spoilers here, but in the first episode, the walls are broken and the Titans are let in. This event is what sets off the rest of the story, and it still would have happened regardless if Eren was the main character or not. In the first episode of Demon Slayer, which is a character-driven story, Tanjiro's whole family is murdered and his sister becomes a demon. When he realizes that Nezuko is a demon, he immediately resolves to find a way to change her back into a human. This decision is what sets off the entirety of the show, and it only happens because of the way that Tanjiro is. Anyone else might have immediately been eaten by their demon sister, or even let Giyu kill her. Take Tanjiro out of the story, and Demon Slayer would not have happened. Unlike Attack on Titan, which revolves around the threat of Titans and the world outside of the walls, Demon Slayer focuses less on killing demons and more about the familial bond between two siblings. Furthermore, learning about each character is a major aspect of the story. Almost every single character has an arc, or at least part of an arc, that focuses on them, whether they're a Hashira or demon. This creates an emotional attachment to each character where we become invested in what happens to them, ultimately drawing us further into the story. Whatever your opinion about a character happens to be, you will always gain a better understanding of them as the story goes on. I would read a spin-off series on any single one of the characters, whether they're a demon, Hashira, Urokutaki Sensei, the swordsmiths, literally anyone. I will say, as much as I love the characters and believe that the characters are what drive the story, I do think that some of them are underdeveloped. Nezuko, for example, is literally the mascot of the story, but she's essentially a pet. She barely gets any development and is mainly used as a plot device to move the story along and motivate Tanjiro. Giyu was also used as a tool to show the space between where Tanjiro is and where he needs to be. Honestly, I'd love to see more on every Hashira, but Demon Slayer actually seems to develop the demons rather than the slayers. Regardless, every character is unique and eccentric, which makes the story interesting and fun to watch. It makes the interactions between characters dynamic with a solid mix between funny and serious moments. There are some characters that I found annoying at first, but as the story went on, I grew to love them. In a way, they all follow common character tropes, but they're so much more complex than that. For example, Shinobu at first seems like she's gonna be a typical cutesy airheaded anime waifu when in reality she's nothing like that. Even though she seems kind, she can also be incredibly sadistic and cruel. Tanjiro even notices that despite her always smiling face, she's actually got a lot of repressed anger. But I find that the most compelling character of all is Kamaboko Gonpachiro himself. Now, we've already established his importance to the story, but to me he's easily one of the most captivating characters of the entire series. I'm definitely a sucker for the kind-hearted, absolutely pure, lovable character archetype, but Tanjiro is so much more than that. Sometimes characters like this can come across as fake, but that's not the case with Tanjiro at all. His kindness is not blindly put in just to make him likable, but it carries actual weight within the story itself. In fact, the way that Tanjiro interacts with each character is literally the most important part of the story. The way he touches the hearts of the characters around him is what drives things along, whether it's the I eat nails for breakfast characters or literal demons. It's only through his empathy that the demons are able to come to terms with what they've done. Because of his connection to Nezuko, Tanjiro understands that demons are tragic creatures who were once human, and he's ultimately able to respect them and give them peace as they die. No other characters are really like this, so it's only because of Tanjiro that we get this entirely new perspective. However, as kind as he is, that doesn't get in the way of his duty to kill demons. He knows that demons have hurt and killed people and must get justice for what they've done, but that does not not mean that he has to be cruel to them. He will not step on those in pain. Multiple demons have even compared Tanjiro to the warmth of sunlight, which is gentle but ultimately kills them. Tanjiro is a kind-hearted soul, but he does not shy away from what he has to do. This creates an incredibly well-rounded character with multiple facets to his personality. Unlike many anime protagonists, Tanjiro is highly emotionally developed and can regulate his emotions even though he was only 13 at the beginning of the story. He's not afraid to cry, hold hands, hug, or show his appreciation to people. He's genuine, caring, honest, but he also shows anger, conviction, and has flaws which totally rounds him out. He's completely himself no matter who he's around, which gives character interactions such a realistic feeling. The love that Tanjiro feels for the people around him is completely genuine. He truly wants what's best for people. He wants to become stronger so that he can protect the ones that he loves, and not because he has a rival that he's got to compete with. Even when people do try to compete with him, he simply does not compute it. His genuine kindness is not some flimsy trait, but it's actually followed through with his actions, whether it's burying the dead or killing a demon mercifully. These actions are felt by every single person in the story, and it's actually a cause of character development for many of them. Not everyone likes him at first, but after seeing how absolutely pure he is, they simply can't help but grow to love him. It doesn't happen right away. The characters get to know each other with every interaction, which makes it all the more realistic. Tanjiro influences the people around him to look inwards towards themselves and come to terms with things that they otherwise would have ignored. He moves something within the people around him just by being who he is. Basically, he's a great character and I love him a lot, and you should too. If you don't like Tanjiro, I do not trust you. The last point that I would like to make is that Demon Slayer is popular because of the story itself. I know I've been saying this entire time that there are more original stories out there with more dynamic plots, and while this is true, the story itself has to be interesting or else no one would have watched it. I've said already that there aren't really any huge plot twists, and that's because the biggest twist lies in Nezuko herself. In a world where humans and demons fight and kill each other, you make the two main characters a demon and a demon slayer. A young boy fighting against demons with his demon sister already sets it apart from any other series. Even characters within the show itself acknowledge that this is an abnormal situation. It makes it much more than about just fighting demons, but about the bond between Tanjiro and Nezuko. Tanjiro's original goal is to turn Nezuko back into a human, and that goal remains the same throughout the entire series. Every goal after that arises from this initial one. His resolve shows how these familial bonds can transcend impossible situations. Both of them are so completely pure and loving, which is really nice to see in anime where sibling relationships can sometimes get a little weird. Another great thing about the story is how consistent it is. The world is realistic in a sense that things happen to the characters that actually have consequences. Their weapons break, for example, and they actually have to wait for them to be fixed. When they get injured, it actually affects them during battle. I always think about how they show a close-up of Tanjiro's calloused hands once, and how his hands are calloused in every single shot after that, even if his hands aren't even the focus of the scene. His hands are permanently affected from taking up the sword. It's not a once-off thing that they showed for a single scene. Tanjiro also doesn't originally have any special powers or innate talent. He's had to work hard for every bit of strength that he gets. They get stronger during each training arc and then apply what they've learned to their lives. Their growth happens slowly, but by the end you can see just how much they've each changed and how strong they've all become. So, in conclusion, I would say that Demon Slayer is popular because of the animation style, the characters, and the story. Overall, there isn't really a formula for why people like what they like, it's just a matter of opinion. I, for one, have enjoyed every moment watching and reading Demon Slayer, and I'm super excited to watch season 2. Let me know down below why you guys think Demon Slayer got so popular, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching, bye!